Welcome to Untamed Blossoms, the podcast where we celebrate the untamed journey of womanhood. Here, we tell the stories of incredible women who have embraced their authenticity, inspiring others to do the same.
From entrepreneurs to artists, activists to adventurers, we share triumphs, challenges, and the beauty of self-discovery. These are the stories of women blazing their own trails, breaking free, and blooming unapologetically.
Join us to connect, be inspired, and celebrate the power of women's stories. Together, let's rewrite the rules and embrace our wildness.
Welcome to Untamed Blossoms. I'm your host, Amanda Riley.
And I'm Cristi Riley. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Today's episode is a tough one for me.
Yeah?
Financials, always scary convo.
I think financials are hard for everyone.
Yeah.
Strong lessons for everyone, depending on how you were raised.
Yeah.
We were not wealthy growing up. We were very poor. It was on welfare, food stamps, the whole 9 yards. So my relationship with money has been very odd.
Yeah.
I was chasing it heavy duty, thinking it would make me happy in the beginning. Early years of my life, I was determined not to be in poverty. So it was like a motivator for me in the beginning. And then, you find yourself with a lot of things and stuff that you thought was going to make you happy. And lo and behold, it does not necessarily make you happy. And so what defining and then going through a period of, wealth means that you're snobby or that you're innately a bad person, because wealthy people when I was growing up were not associated with being good people. You couldn't be a good person and be wealthy. And so unpacking all of that in probably the more recent years for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Money was always something we just never were talked about too. So like it was like, don't ask. We're not talking about it.
Got you. Yeah.
Like I remember one time my dad getting a paycheck in the mail and my mom being like, do not open it. Do not look at it. Like it's none of your business, basically.
Yeah.
She didn't say it like that, of course, but it was always just something we never talked about. And I, I've spent a lot of my time when I did have money, using it on experiences and going places and doing things, because I had a strong connection of, we don't have the money for that. I didn't know what that really meant, but I just knew we didn't have the money to go on vacations and do those things. So when I did have expendable income, I've never been a stuff person.
Yeah.
I've never really been drawn to like getting things, but I've always wanted to experience as much as I can, which does take money. So it's been an interesting journey.
I really had to unpack based on that exact thing, the scarcity mindset, right? Is that there's not enough.
Right.
There's not enough. It's not going to be enough. We don't have money for that. You can't have that. Wanting that is bad. So for me, that's been the largest, I think, unpacking for me is coming to an equilibrium of just because you have things and you've worked really hard for things doesn't mean that you can be a good person that gives and is philanthropic is the right word.
Yes.
And not associate that with people that are just, and I think that was the problem growing up, is that I was just told. And so growing up with a scarcity mindset was the relationship I had with money for a long time, is that it's, while you have it, you got to spend it because you're not going to have it for long,
Right.
So instead of shifting your mindset to, it'll show up for me if I really want something, and that shift in my later years has been really prolific for me.
Totally.
Yeah. And that's pretty much, Julie Murphy is our guest today, you guys. And she's a well-renowned author and it was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, is very much an expert in this field. So I can't wait to talk to her.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We are so excited to talk to you.
Yay. This is
money,
good.
money and
Mm.
women. What a great message that you have as far as, I mean, we obviously are energetic people about all the things, but a lot of people don't consider money and energy to be energy, I guess I should say. So when I
that's
read your
all
book,
it
it
is.
made total sense to me immediately. So, start us out. Tell us a little bit about you and kind of how you got onto this path.
Sure. Well, I'm one of 12 children,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I'm the second oldest. So I didn't grow up with money, and I wound up delivering the newspaper, the Chicago Sun-Times and Tribune, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade at 6 a.m. And I couldn't put down the business section. I kept reading it, and we couldn't afford to get the newspaper delivered, so I read other people's before I delivered them. And then when I went to high school, I was like, oh, they have this accounting course. Let me take that. And then when I went to college, I was going, I'm not really an accountant. And then I took this one finance class, and I was like, oh, this is it. And it just like lit me up. And then I was like, oh, I'm not really like traditional finance either. So then I became a financial planner. There was this program with an insurance company where my clients contractually were mine. They weren't owned by the insurance company. And that was very rare at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to own my own. I ain't going to let anybody else own me.
Yeah.
And then 8 years later, that insurance company tried to sue the hell out of me when I tried to leave because they wanted
Wow.
to keep the clients, which just was reinforcing the fact that I was doing all the right stuff, following my own intuition and following my own journey. And then it was shortly thereafter that I decided to, after I went through to the University of Illinois in my undergrad and put myself through school, and then decided to get my MBA to figure out how to run my company more efficiently. So I went to the University of Notre Dame for that. And I've been on the journey. I decided to, in 2003, actually, to get rid of the mahogany desks, office space, as well as the stiff business suits. Because if somebody's going to share their blood, sweat, and tears with you about all their shame and guilt and judgment around money and what they've done right and what they've done wrong, a stiff suit and a mahogany desk does not create a safe environment for people to
no.
unpack their stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. I think it's really hard. We've talked about this before. It's really hard as a woman to feel empowered to take charge of financials, to take charge of your
Mhm.
own shit, honestly, and to look and say, wow, this is what I
Mhm.
have done, me, myself, and I to myself. How do I get out of this? And I think there's a lot of intimidation. So I could totally see stripping that away really makes it more comfortable and welcoming to have those tough conversations. And when in your career did you start to see like, wow, women especially kind of have a hard time addressing this money root cause?
Well, one of the things that we have to understand as women is that if you think about our grandparents, um, and some people's great grandparents, right? Their grandmothers couldn't borrow money or have a bank account without their husbands.
Right.
And their husbands just had it, and their husbands got to. So if you think about, the work from Dr. Bruce Lipton, The Biology Belief, his book, and he talks about that 97% of how we respond to the world around us actually comes from our experience. And then that forms our DNA structure moving from generation to generation. So if you think about our grandmothers who couldn't have the experience of dealing money on their own because they were told they were not worthy, not enough, they didn't know how to handle it, those money stories are still in our DNA structure. And so we are the generations that are unpacking that and
Yeah.
going, I'm not as stupid with money as you think. Like, think about me. I am a master at money, but yet men want me to be their arm candy. And I'm going, but my net worth is way higher than yours. And so is my income. And so is everything. Like, it's this whole dynamic shift that creates this like thing turning it on its head, because I don't need a man in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I've had women come to me and say, oh, but you're financially different, and that's why your divorce went okay. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Right? That because I was in the power seat because I was the money person. And I'm like, Well, that's a belief system.
Right.
It's not reality, but okay.
And I
But
think
this,
that's
again, it's our stories. It's our stories that
totally.
we tell. Yeah.
And I think that's why so many women are afraid to leave relationships, marriages, partnerships in any kind of way because of their belief system around money and what that would mean for them in terms of being able to make it without that
Correct.
partner.
Well, and here's what I want people to understand, that money is energy, point blank. If you are on the frequency of money and abundance, money will flow to you. So how do you get on the frequency of money and abundance? Is you have to plug into the world as your authentic true self. When we stay in relationships that are not serving us, like let's just say you and your spouse, your partner have given each other the gifts and it's time to move on, but one of you's afraid to do that. Well, no money's going to come to you to support you in that process unless you choose to take the jump and take the leap.
Right.
Because you're actually cutting the flow off of money by staying in something that you know has already ran its course. And this is true from an employer. This is true from friendships. This is true from relationships. It doesn't matter. Even family relationships. Like if you're really the ugly duckling and you are just meant to not be part of that except to be born into it, well, if you don't go be yourself, money's going to fall away from you. So is your good
Absolutely.
health. So is love. Like it only attracts to you when you're in alignment with you. And the challenge I see so many women that they do is they negotiate themselves away because they don't feel enough, they don't feel worthy, and they don't feel loved. And
Totally.
And then,
so we need to
and
start
then layer
to
that on with
approach
the
it.
epigenetics that you're talking about, right? The messaging that we weren't even possibly directly told, but still
Yep.
lives in our DNA, right?
Yep.
That
The frequency of that's right in our
scarcity.
DNA. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Not us not feeling worthy ourselves, not having enough money. Money's never going to flow to me. We're never going to have enough money. I think
Mm-hmm.
scarcity mindset for me, that's what we were talking about in the introduction, is we grow up very poor. So I was always told, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. No, like, and there's people who were raised in the middle class who just like, I thought we were wealthy. I didn't know we were not. I was never really told that because my parents didn't speak those words and didn't say those things out loud. And so they didn't have, I noticed in my 30s that they didn't have the same struggle that I did with money, is that when I would get it, I would want to hoard it or be afraid or
Right.
not spend or keep it because I'm like, this is going to go away from me. So it's not going to
Right.
stay.
Right.
And it wasn't until really my late 40s that I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's meant to flow.
Yep.
It's meant to flow, right? It's meant to
Right.
flow to and from and create things for me, not something that I'm supposed to just hoard onto. And
Well, and
that's been a big
that
change.
it's a huge change. And what people don't realize, like, the more you give, the more you get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm very generous, and everything just keeps expanding. But the thing is don't be generous to the point that it's at your detriment.
Right.
Right? Like it's about you have to win as well as the other people have to win. It's got to be this win-win scenario, not a
Right.
win-lose. And too
Right.
often you see women give the shirt off their back, but it's at their cost.
Right. It's
And
not in
that's
overflow.
where, right, it's not in alignment with self-love and self-care.
Yeah.
And I would
that's
love
what you need to take that.
And I
Go
would
ahead.
love if you could expand a little bit. I think people don't know where to start. So money is energy, and we can understand like, okay, protect your energy, protect your peace. Those things I think people can wrap their head around. But I think with money, there's just this barrier of, you say that, but I need money to live. So how do I
Yeah.
jump that timeline, if you will, into a space of abundance?
Well, first and foremost, you have to stop acting out your unprocessed emotions from before you were 7 years old. We all have stuff that's stuck in our subconscious mind, in our amygdala. And what I mean by that, like if anyone who's listening has debt or they're spending more than they make, that is the emotions that are stuck in your body, and you're acting it out by your spending and your debt levels. So I know for a fact the minute somebody comes to me and they have debt that keeps rolling over and they have cash flow issues, their subconscious mind is running the engine. And so I need to get them to a place where we create a financial system. And this is what my book, Awaken Your Wealth, is built on, because it's how I work with clients one-on-one. It's a system that allows you to start building an abundant financial framework, if you will, but doing it in a way that it doesn't hijack your nervous system. Because the minute you hijack your nervous system emotionally, what you're doing is you're causing your body to contract. So if you have debt levels and you're worried about paying your bills, or you're not getting divorced because you're worried about how you will pay your bills, that's going to cause your nervous system to contract, and you can't manifest anything in your life when you're contracted. Nothing. So you have to hold this safe container, which is the divine feminine, is supposed to hold the space, to allow, to hold the space for potential. And if we can get to that state of neutrality in our nervous systems, and the way you do that logistically from a money perspective is you only have so many dollars coming in and so many dollars going out, right? But if you take a look at, I walk people through your financial past, which is all your past decisions, have created the debts that you have. So your debts are in your past. Then you have your financials that are in the present moment. That's like getting in the flow of life, kind of like the flow of traffic, right? That's your cash flow, the money coming in and coming out. People will always call that a budget. I need everybody to take that word budget completely out of their vocabulary. Why? Because when I say the word budget to people, they feel like they can't have what they want. And that's not good. That, again, causes you to contract. It makes you give up. It makes you feel like, why do I bother? Right? It's not expansionary. It's contracting. And then you have your financial future, and that's like the assets that you've built for retirement or your kids' college or whatever. And when I was on Capitol Hill a couple of years ago, I had this congressman ask me, he was from the South, and he said, how do we get Americans to spend more money for retirement? And, all the people on the panel are going through, and he got to me and I go, you're asking the wrong question. He goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, there's no way that you're going to get people to plan for retirement when they're spending so much on their financial past, which are their debts, let alone living in the present moment with their current cash flows. And they couldn't believe that. I go, so if you want to make an impact, well, don't make it so easy for banks to give out debt structures. But we have to understand something. What I learned from all this time on Capitol Hill is that they're in cahoots with the banking system and the banking system, and they all want to control the masses by controlling on how much debt you have in.
Yeah.
So your car payments, your student loan payments, your house payments, all the things that you might call good debt, they're still trapping you into a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you don't
Consumerism
have
is about
freedom.
control, right? Like
For sure.
the whole thing. If we can be convinced how much we need, if we can be marketed to how much we ought to have,
Right.
then that gives a lot of control.
Well, and so what does it do to you individually? It reinforces scarcity. It reinforces not enough. I'm not worthy. And it's not putting you in a place of empowerment. You're being victim to the system.
Totally.
And so the key is the first thing you need to do is decide you no longer want to be a victim and you no longer want to be in survival mode. But unless you've made that decision, you're going to keep spinning your wheels. And once you decide that, well, like I said, my book, Awaken Your Wealth, walks you through the system that I'm talking about. And then you have to clean up your financial past while living in the present moment and plan for the future all at the same time. Because people think like going, I'll just declare bankruptcy and I'll get it taken care of. But no, you haven't built the muscles to the new system. You're just going to recreate it all over again.
It's a crash
Just
diet.
Like if you haven't done your work in your current marriage and you get divorced, guess what? You're attracting the same bird with a different face and a different name, but it's the same emotional patterns.
Totally.
So until you do your work, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
So this is about stepping into your empowerment instead of being the victim. And it's about playing financial offense versus playing financial defense. So for an example, people are like, well, there's not enough money to go around. I'm going, okay, well then we need to come up with a creative way to get you into your empowerment. So I'll give an example. I had this woman, she wanted to start her own business. She owned a 3-bedroom condo and because she didn't want to work for corporate America anymore. And she's like, well, I really want to stay where I want to live. And because I don't want to contract, but I can't afford this, but it's creating some debt and blah, blah. And I go, why don't you rent out your rooms? Because how do you create? And so as her business got more successful, she was able to rent out. She had a 3-bedroom condo. So she rented out one less room. And then she, took her parking spots back. And then eventually, it took her like 5 years, but she was able, in the meantime, she had other people who were paying her mortgage payment. So she was still building an asset while she was trying to gain her life of freedom in no longer working for corporate America and starting her own, renting out part of the place that she lived in, and doing it in a way that made her feel good about, because if you feel good about your job, you're going to get pay raises. If you hate your boss, you're not getting the pay raises, you're not getting the bonuses, and you're not getting the promotions. It's all frequency and vibration, and the entire universe works on sound and vibration. And once we realize that your jobs, your relationships, your money, it's all tied to that. So what are our frequencies? Our frequencies are our emotions. So if you're mad, sad, ticked off, angry at the current politics, guess what? You're not manifesting anything. And all these things outside of us are poking the crap out of all of us to test you to stay neutral. Because in neutrality, you can manifest. And I'm not saying what's outside of us is good, bad, or indifferent. I certainly don't want to get in that fight.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, are you letting it affect your daily life? And if so, then you're no better than the ones poking the stuff going on out there.
Totally.
Because you need to stay in the vibration that's higher. Think of it like when you're flying into a city at night, you can see the light grid for the city, right? If one of those lights are out, it shorts out. If one of those transmitters are out, it's going to short circuit the entire block. We as humans work the exact same way. I had one of my intuitive healers said to me when I got divorced, he said, thank you for all the impact you've made on all the women moving forward. I go, what are you talking about? And he said, you divorced a narcissist with borderline personality disorder, which is practically impossible without abolishing some part of self, because you get attacked so bad. And he said, you just made it now easier for the next person to get divorced because you've loosened the grip that narcissists have on women. And I go, oh, that's fascinating, because it's all an energy grid.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, over the last 8 years, I've gotten so many women trying to divorce narcissists, and I know the playbook on how to do that financially.
They're finding you.
They're finding me all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I know how to break that barrier.
Right.
And the lawyers it's funny, like this one client I had, I go, all right, you think you have a deal, you're going in on Friday. I said, and I'm telling you, the narcissist is going to have the thing that's most important to you. And you need to just say, your net worth is this. You're getting half. I don't care what package it looks like. Whatever comes out of his mouth, you just say, okay, I'll take that half. Because if you don't, the narcissist wants to keep fighting. And the lawyer was like, but she really wants this house. I go, and she needs to stop digging her heels in, because all she's going to get is more fight.
That's right.
And he did exactly what I said. He was going to take the lake house from her. And she cried because she really wanted it. But then we went and bought her. She went and built her own lake house is what eventually happened once she got the money.
Yeah.
Right.
But she didn't take his BS. And I just know that from going through it over and over again. Right.
I think
And
that's
so
an interesting
Go ahead.
lesson on expansion, though, right? Because when we're fearful of the unknown, we tend to immediately think of the worst case. So, okay, I get this divorce, I lose this house that I love, versus the expansion of, I'm not afraid to lose this house that I love because I'll find something better. Something better will come of this. I will find a lake house that meets my criteria 100%. And I will fall in love with that.
of the narcissist
Yes.
ex-husband.
Yes.
Right.
And you know what needs to happen in that process is that the idea of the house is the idea of what you thought your life would be like when you bought
Right.
that house.
Yeah.
And you're still trying to muscle your way into it. Instead of feeling your feelings of the thing not working out the way that you expected and go build it somewhere else.
Right.
Totally.
Get really clear on what you wanted to do.
And sometimes you need to get out of that space so you have the clarity. Like, I didn't realize how much I ignored my own heart along the way just to keep peace, right? And so I negotiate things away from me. And the man that I'm dating now, I loved it. There was this one time we have 6 kids combined. We all get in the car and they're all barking out where they wanted to go to dinner. And he said, "We're going to sit here until your mom decides where her heart's desire is to go." I couldn't even figure out where I wanted to go to dinner without taking everyone's opinion into account, because I had so much done that just to keep the peace that when I went to somewhere, I'm like, oh, that's because this kid would want that and this kid would want that. And that kid's in a bad mood, so this would make them happier. And like, I didn't realize how much I did it. And then I said exactly where I wanted to go. And they're like, oh, man. And he was like, enough, stop. I was like, I didn't even know how to be in a relationship and be supported and protected. So like when we're so used to not feeling worthy, not feeling enough, that we don't even know what it's like to actually be in our empowerment and actually have a container that holds a safe place for the divine feminine to be all that she is, financially or otherwise.
How are you navigating that? Are you leaning in?
Oh, I'm leaning in, sister. It's, it's interesting. It's, I'm a doer. I have lists and I accomplish things all the time. This development has been the complete opposite. It's not about lists. It's not about to-do lists. It's about holding space. It's about being. It's about allowing. Because when you don't accept anything that arises, you suffer. So, like when my 16-year-old son decided to go live with his dad because we were holding a higher container and higher frequency, and he didn't want to do that, acting out like a teenager does. And he just said, I'm not coming back to your house. I was like, that put me right up against my patterning for everything to come back up. And I just looked at my current partner and I said, this is a money play. His alimony's almost out and he's talking my son into doing this. So my son was the pawn, if you will, in the game to get more cash for himself.
Yeah.
Because the narcissist is running out of cash.
Yeah.
And so when we can start to observe that and hold the space and say, well, I'm sad that you don't want to live here, but you're becoming a young man. And so, but no, you're always welcome back. And he was like, what? Like he couldn't believe that I held that space. And it's funny. It just comes out in different ways. And then I was the bad person. I'm this. And I'm going, no, I'm authentic. My son is not to give me an ultimatum. He either goes or I go. Like, you're not giving me an ultimatum of who I'm staying in a relationship with, because that has to do with his dad trying to control it again.
Right.
And I'm going, no, I'm not stepping out of my empowerment.
Yeah.
I'm staying in my empowerment, even if it meant my own son, because I want him to change generations moving forward.
Totally.
Right.
And that means you can't push a woman around and tell her what she needs to do, how she needs to dress, and where she needs to be and when.
Right.
That's not happening on my watch to my son.
Totally.
So he's finding his way in his dance, because he also told me he didn't need my money. So then when I didn't pay for his chiropractor anymore or his car when he turned 16 or anything else, he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, this was the choice you made.
Yep.
He's like, what? Like, he really didn't think that I would do that.
Yeah.
But there is no way in hell I want my son to repeat the patterns of the patriarchy of the past.
Yeah.
I think the patterns are something that really is difficult for people to break. I think especially in relationship. And if you've always been with someone where either you're the breadwinner and you're the one that always brings in the cash, and or when that flips, when the other person does, whether it's one way or the other, it's really, really hard not to start to spiral or to self-sabotage. What advice would you give to people who are in partnership that are really struggling with finding the roles and the balances when it comes to their finances?
Well, it's about you. First of all, you have to make sure that you have a voice. So there's a lot of times I have women that, couples that come to me and he will speak for her. And then I will say, well, what do you think? And he'll even be like, well, she thinks like this. And I go, may I have just a moment to ask her what her opinion is? And then she starts fidgeting and then she starts moving because that tells me for years she has not used her voice financially. And sometimes if it's so awkward, I'll just say, why don't you just think about it and we'll talk about it next time, just to start to get that to open, right? Because every woman has an opinion. The question is do you give credence to it or not? Are you giving any credibility to the fact that you have a voice and it's important to you? So depending on how mute you've decided to be financially, you have to just decide you don't want to be a mute anymore. Because we do outlive the men. So at some juncture, you got to figure it out.
Right. Totally.
Right?
Right.
And so that's the first step, I think, if you really aren't empowered. Now, if you're the opposite of that and you're the go-getter and you're the breadwinner, well, you're the one that's attracting the narcissist. Every A-type personality successful woman I know gets in partnerships and relationships with narcissists. We attract them like bugs to a bug light. Why? Because we're so different and driven that we attract the ones that just want to ride the coattails. And they will milk it for anything that they got. And we still have underlying in us not worthy and not enough buttons, which is driving us to be successful oftentimes. And so it's about getting real with, is this a soulful relationship or is it a relationship built on your trauma from when you were younger? Because we all have a trauma or rejection that happened before age 7. So whichever route that you are, if you're completely disempowered financially or if you're empowered and successful, where's your trauma or rejection before age 7 acting out? And because I realized what my relationship is it was me acting out my trauma, where now I'm actually in a relationship where it's connecting soul-wise. So how does that have to do with your finances? Well, if you have something that's based on your trauma, well, then you have money, you have a financially leaky container, And so like you may be thinking you're driving your career. You maybe think you're building all these assets. And guess what? You get divorced, it's built on your trauma and half of it's going out the door, right? You built a leaky container, right? But if it's soulful work and your alignment with self and your partner is as well, that's where you learn and grow together and you're moving and shaking and you're both doing it together. And so we have to realize that. But that's also true. We got to remember that's also true with employers. Like if you're an employer and you're just trying to put in your time, don't do it because that just creates disease in your body. So we have to evaluate. I always talk about, like in my book, The Emotion Behind Money, I talk about you have to look at the different areas of your life. It's not only your financial life, what's going on in your family, what's going on in your career, and what's going on with you personally, right? Like if you're out of weight and out of shape, like you're not going to be any good to any company or any relationship if you're not taking care of yourself. And sometimes those things just start with, I always tell people, start with the thing that feels the easiest, that doesn't hijack your nervous system. So a lot of times that starts with people at work because that's the one they can rock the boat the most and have the least amount of consequences for. But it's you building your muscles to empowerment. And so it's like maybe going in there people will come to me all the time. Men always ask for their raises. Women, they're just happy to be at the table. And so I go in there, like I had this woman recently, I'm like, you have to hold the line that you deserve this raise. And we did this whole coaching session on me, like having her negotiate it. She went in there and then they scheduled a second one and they decided to let her go. I go, they want women who are disempowered working for them so that they can get cheap on the dollar.
Right.
Why do you want to work there if that's the case?
Right.
And now it's actually pivoted her to completely doing work in the world. She took a slight pay cut, but oh my God, she's so passionate about the work she's doing right now. It was worth every dime because she's so excited about the work that she's doing.
Right. And then
So,
what the abundance is going to come to her past this? Who knows?
Absolutely, it's coming. You just don't know where it's going to come from.
Yeah.
And that's the trusting piece.
Yeah. And it's not just always abundance in money, right? It's abundance in love, abundance in happiness, abundance
Time.
and health, abundance
All
and
of it.
time, all of the things, right? And
Yep.
joy and not and you specifically talk about wealth, but in your book I know you talk about all of those things, is that it shows up for you in so
Yep.
many different ways. And abundance is not just about how much money you have in your bank account and how many
Right.
assets you have in your repertoire, so I think that's a really
Yep.
great message, that it's not always, and I think in a consumeristic environment today, it's hard not to
Yep.
want all. We're literally being targeted at every corner to want more, and that
Yeah.
you're not enough if you don't have those things.
Well, and there's little things you can do from a money perspective. Like if you're on the Amazon app and you really want this thing, well, why don't you stick it in your cart and then just come back to it 3 days later?
Yeah.
And I tell you, probably 80% of what you put in your cart, you're probably going to go, I really don't need that.
Right.
And that's just the recognition to show you how those emotions are trying to come out. And if you just don't spend and you don't do it, it'll
Yeah.
dissipate.
Yeah.
The energy behind those emotions will dissipate.
Yeah.
But you could be full throttle and full charge and go, oh my God, I spent $1,500 and
Yeah.
and then you have a spending hangover.
Totally. I would like to
Yeah.
pivot a little bit and talk about your creativity when it comes to writing. So obviously you're passionate about money and energy and making sure people understand that. But what made you decide to take the creative route and say, well, I want to write books about these things. And I want to help women in a different way.
It was called The Women's Intuition. I'm going, what? The one day I just heard that I got this intuitive hit. I started meditating back in 2001. I started meditating. And with Deepak Chopra in the Chopra Center out in Carlsbad, California. And so you start listening to what your guidance, whether you think it's your higher self, your higher soul self, spirit, whatever. And I got this hit going, you're going to write a book. And I was like, yeah, no, I was finance major. I was like, what? No, I'm not. And then I kept getting these hits. Like a friend of mine started writing a book. She goes, hey, I was thinking, have you ever thought of writing a money book? She goes, I was thinking this weekend we can go to my friend's place in Michigan and go stay at the place and we can write our books. And I'm going, oh, you're funny, Spirit. Like, what the hell? Now you're setting places up for me. And then I finally surrendered into it. And then my mom was an English teacher and she says, you're writing a book. I go, yeah. She goes, I don't know if I'd recommend that, Joel. You were I was her hell child as an English student because I was math. Right? And my mom just remembers sitting up with me trying to write 5-paragraph essays when I was in 4th grade, right? She's got this memory of holy hell, you're writing a book? And I go, Mom, I did get my master's from Notre Dame. I think I figured out how to write.
Yeah.
I go, and so I realized at that point, you also, when you go to step into who you know you're meant to be, the people who know you are the ones going to they're almost like crabs in your bucket, try to pull you back to where they're comfortable with you being. And I realized at that time, I could not talk to my mom anymore about my book until it already went through a few rounds of editing by other people. And I said, Mom, would you like to edit my book? She found 6 mistakes, which could argue that they didn't need it. She goes, wow, this is kind of good. Maybe you did figure it out. Because I wouldn't talk to her about it. I'm like, you gotta wait till it's done. I'm not talking about it. Because she was a crab in my bucket and she would have pulled me off my path. She wasn't empowering for me to do it. She was just like, oh my God, you're writing a book? And I know my mom means well. My mom's a great person, But that's what helped me build the confidence muscles to not get aborted by somebody reminding me of who I was when I wasn't as great at writing. So the creative process, part of it's, I think, too, realizing what your strengths are and what they're not, right? I'm really good at getting intuitive hits and strategy, but I needed to pull in somebody for structure because I'm like one big run-on sentence, So I brought in an editor to put that structure to it for me. So what? I'm a finance person. I'm not an editor. Right? And so part of that creative process is to realize my ego can be to the side and I can put some of this aside. And who do I need to pull in and for what reasons and why? Now, I am really good at speaking. My audiobooks are all in my voice. because I'm good at it.
Right.
Like me being a speaker, I can speak in front of 3,000 people, no problem.
Yeah.
Most people would be terrified to do that. But editing?
And you're funny. You were funny when you were reading your books. I was laughing at you.
Thank you.
I was like, she's hysterical. She's like, she gets animated and starts yelling and like, no, that will not work, And I was like, I like her.
That I am.
It was fun.
People always ask if I'm Italian because I speak with my hands. I'm like, no, I'm Irish. I don't know where the hand thing comes from. Well, I don't know. It's all good.
It was great. It was great. I like that you were doing that in your own voice, and you could tell that you were really passionate about so it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't matter if it's highly edited or the editor put it together. Like, it's your messaging, right? And you were called to bring that message to the world. However that gets to the world is.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, that when you are authentically you, you're having more fun.
Yeah.
You're attracting more opportunities. You're attracting more readers of your books. Like, more people will read my book because it's my voice.
Yeah.
Totally.
I totally know that because it's my vibration going out to the universe. And if the universe works on sound and vibration, well, my vibration out of my mouth better be in my audiobooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or people won't find it as efficiently. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
And do you host workshops, or is it mostly one-on-one coaching? So what are those things that you offer, and where can people find that?
Absolutely. So, coming from a person who didn't come from money and learning how to not only become income affluent, but also asset affluent, I wanted to make sure that I had something at every level, right? So I certainly do one-on-ones, but I also have created an entire platform on juliemurphy.com that allows you to go into, obviously I have all my free social media stuff. I'm pretty much on any social media out there. I also have online courses that you can take, 6-week courses with assignments, as well as you'll get me in some live coaching throughout that 6 weeks. I have a weekly group that people join where I'm just helping you through whatever bumps it is that you're in. And that way it makes it more affordable for people.
Yeah.
So that, you can spend less than $200 a month and get me every single week in a group to ask any questions that you want. But then I also have the people who are paying me $7,000 to have one-on-one on an annual basis.
Right.
Right. So there's everything. So my wealth management firm is jmcwealth.com. And then I have my online brand that is the group coaching, and all the other books and everything runs through there. That's at juliemurphy.com.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. And then, Julie, if you had somebody that was like at their rock bottom financially today, a woman listening to our podcast, and you could give them one little nugget of place to start, what would you tell them today?
You are the gold. So choose to shine.
I love that.
Because we don't realize how, no matter where you're at in life, you can create anything that you want. I didn't have a pot to piss in. That's how I started. Yeah. So I'm the story that you can create anything.
Right. And you didn't talk about it, Julie, but you did talk about it in your other book, right? You took advantage of the 2008 crash and everybody thought you were crazy and bought up real estate. Not so much anymore, huh?
No, people, it's so funny the stories we tell ourselves. Like, I get the hits and then I move on those. And our women's intuition is so strong.
Yes.
We just override it all the time.
Yep. We rationalize it away.
Ugh.
All the time. Yeah.
So stupid. And you want to hear something funny? You know where it shows up for me? Like years ago, I went to, I had a taping of some TV program in Vegas. And I was like, let me see if I could test my money stuff out here. So I had $300. I was like, I'm willing to lose $300. So I walk in, I go, okay, Spirit, show me where I'm supposed to sit. So I sit at this one table, and this chick sits down next to me, and I'm down 100. Now I'm down 150. And I go, well, I plan on winning today. How about you? She goes, oh God, I hope so. And I was like, I'm out. So I left because I'm going, I don't want to be in that energy because I'm watching the leaking container. Then I was like, all right, Spirit, show me where I'm supposed to sit. Spirit sits me at $25 chip table. And I was going, I only play like $5 tables. I'm like, I don't do $25 tables. I'm like, what? I'm going, that means I only have $6 $25. And I heard, sit down. I'm like, and then as the cards were being played, I was following my intuition. I was not following the games of blackjack.
Mm.
like
I love
splitting
that.
twos and hitting on them where you don't do that. Like I
Right.
was doing that stuff. Well, 3 hours later, I'm up to like 6 grand. And everyone who would sit at the table, I'm like, hey, do you plan on winning today? And people who said, hope so. I'm like, well, can you go hope somewhere else? Because I am going to win today. And then some guy comes over in this cowboy hat. He goes, young lady, I've been listening to you and I'm going to win. I'm not hoping nothing. I'm coming over here. He left the table when he was like up 3 grand. He left the table.
That's awesome.
And so it's a way that I have like tested my intuition because I'm the money chick going, where am I overriding it? And where am I just trusting that even though it makes no logical sense to split on twos, I just did things like that to build the muscle to trust my intuition more. And as I've done that, it's always turned out. And so
Yeah.
I've just learned to trust that.
Totally.
Was there a time before this that in your life, like a pivotal moment where you turned it around or that you made a real choice where things weren't so great and that you had to really, like, where in your timeline did this shift happen where you're like, wow, this is really all about energetics?
Well, in the financial world, you're supposed to show up a certain way. You're supposed to look a certain way. Like back when I started in finance, you had to have the blue suit. The girls had to wear the skirts,
Mm-hmm.
and
Pantyhose.
you were in mahogany desks. I remember I had a boss that said to me, he goes, you have to stop hugging your clients when they walk in the door. It's not professional. And I was sitting there like going, they're telling me everything about their money. And I'm supposed to know everything about their families and their jobs, their dark secrets. And I can't hug them? Like I couldn't even like put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was shortly thereafter that I decided to leave and put my office space in a non-mahogany desk place.
Right.
And I no longer have business suits at all.
Mm.
First of all, they don't really work well with my curvy body. Second of all, they're not comfortable. And
Yeah.
third, people don't open up,
Right.
right?
Totally.
Right.
And it's even funny like how somehow the skylight is shining in this room right now as I'm doing this. Like
It's
how weird is the
beautiful.
light like coming in?
You look like a goddess.
I'm like sitting here going, that's like to me confirmation that
Yeah.
everything, the light is there. So I've had a couple pivotal moments, but that was one in my career.
Yeah.
And when I was in my 20s, everybody was getting married. And I wasn't because I put everything into my career. And it was because I let that actually dominate. I made a choice in a relationship that was based on my trauma and it wasn't based on like a soul connection.
Yeah.
And so I got pinched. I'm super grateful for the 4 beautiful babies that I have. And, I believe that they're doing their soul work too with me and their dad. And I'm grateful. But gosh, if I would have known what a real soulful relationship was, I would have never put up with the shit that I put up with the first time.
Totally.
Well, you have to go through some of those sometimes to understand the difference.
You had any women throughout your time, whether it be spiritual guidance, someone a mentor, just a few women that you feel like, wow, they really helped shape and inspire me?
So funny. I always wanted to seek the woman who had it all. And I found a woman in my industry who actually was that. And then she did what all the men did. And that's when I realized, wow, you can be male or female. It's about whether you're in your masculine energy or your feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
So Chinese medicine believes that the right side of our bodies are the masculine sides and the left side is the feminine side. And so if you're in your masculine energy, you're doing, you're pushing, you're trying to accomplish, protecting. If you're in your feminine energy, then you're holding space, you're for potential, you're allowing, you're being. And so to me, there's been women in finance particularly had to become masculine to be successful. It's only the young women that are going in there today that they can come in their femininity because like we've held the container going, hey, doing finance the female way is actually effective. And like my business grows like no other guy's grows. And it's because I connect to people's hearts. But before I came in, was anyone doing that? No, like I was like pulled off stage by a woman going, oh, don't these young financial planners, like think of things differently, but they'll figure out how it goes. Like she literally pulled me off stage. And because she was way in her masculine energy.
Yeah.
And it was when my first book came out. Like she was so mortified that I spoke so much truth about a different way to do finance that she pulled me off stage. So I learned in my industry, the women before me were not good resources because they became masculine.
Yeah.
So, but I also believe that there's been a lot in terms of when I look at my speaking and talking to the general public, that's where I've gotten a lot of support from women. You know, where women who got to the executive suites will pull me in as a speaker. Like I was just put in front of all of the top financial planners across the country. I was put on stage to speak in front of. And this time it was effective because people were ready to hear a new message.
Right.
But I was way before the curve of, you know, connecting the human heart and finance at the same time. Right. So sometimes when you have the experiences, you've got to just recognize it. Like I knew I wasn't going to early on impact financial planners, that I was going to impact more of the general public because the finance world was so masculine that it wasn't ready to hear my message, even though the general public was starving for it.
Yeah.
So I followed the energy to where people needed me first. So where I taught at was the Women's Business Development Center in Chicago. So I was helping women business owners get their finances together. And the women who ran that place, who started it way before women were in business, they were, when I met them, they were in their 70s. So you're talking maybe one of them's in their 90s right now.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
all they did was help launch female businesses with the ideas. And then what I started to realize is that women don't get past $1 million in revenues. And I realized women stayed small because they want to control everything because of their fear. And so when you don't bust that glass ceiling of $1 million in revenues being a female business owner if you don't let go of control and allow the support of people around you. You can't grow big unless you allow the support. And so many of us are feeling not enough, not worthy. We try to control our environment and we try to train others to do it our way. And that's just a stress response. It actually doesn't allow expansion. So when we can start to recognize these things, and these women at the Women's Business Development Center really, you know, shine the light on a lot of that way before their time.
Totally.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What a cool thing for them to do and for women to get exposed to that and have that resource.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So when I was chose to speak on stage to all those financial planners, they said I got to pick a non-for-profit to get a scholarship fund. And so I gave it back to the Women's Business Development Center.
That's awesome.
All these years later.
Full circle.
Circle. I love that.
It was.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
good stuff.
Thank you for sharing your message. I think we are really passionate about women taking control, especially of finances, given both of our pasts, and taking leaps and doing things with the abundant mindset versus the scarcity. So thank you for writing books and speaking and coming on to podcasts because it's all so important.
And if you ever want to collaborate on anything like for your audience, let me know because I know that that's how I'm supposed to serve.
We would love that. Yeah, absolutely. Julie, thank you so much for coming on. And
you're welcome.
We will obviously tag all of the things in the show notes as where people can find you and connect with you.
Thank you.
And obviously go read her books, everybody. They're great. And she's very entertaining as she reads them to you while you're driving down the road. I'm sure I look like a lunatic listening to them. I'm like laughing. I'm like, she's so funny.
Finance can be fun.
It can be.
Finance can be fun. Maybe that's the episode title. Finance can be fun.
Hell yeah. I love it.
Awesome.
Good
well,
stuff.
if this episode resonates with you, please share it with a friend. That's how we will get the message out. And if anyone you know in your life could use some of this guidance, we would love for you to share. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
We love you.
Thank you.